the 2025-2026 deer season looming closer and closer, my mind is running back to a hunt that I went on a few years ago, and I was in a kind of a desperate situation to get a deer. I had one buck tag left, and I had about 6 doe tags left. And so I left out early that morning. I took my trusty 30-30 Marlin here, which is in the clutch. That's going to be one I choose if I just have to get it done. And I went out to this spot that I prepped. I had prepped it 3 or 4 days ahead of time, and I knew they were coming in there. I had pictures of them and everything. And I set up in my ground blind. Well, about 11 o'clock, this big doe comes up, looks right in the window at me, and I couldn't move. And she spied me, and she started to walk at an angle away from me, but where she could see me at all times. So I knew if I moved, she was going to spook, and that was the end of the hunt. And I started noticing her body language. I said, that deer is acting like she has something else with her. There's another deer following her, because the tail kept going side to side, and her ear, she would walk and she had one ear this way, one ear that way, and she would look back over her shoulder, but she was constantly going away from me, of course. And I said, something else is with her. And I said, oh my, I hope it's not a fawn, because I'm not killing a fawn. I'm not going to shoot a fawn. And I didn't want to kill a doe with a fawn either. And I started glancing over the woods, and I didn't see anything. I'm looking and looking. I didn't see anything. So I said, what does she have with her? I know there's another deer out here. Finally, after about 45 seconds or so of her walking away, I looked, and way down in the thicket in the bottom, I see antlers. I said, oh, so you're the company. And there was a nice buck standing down in the bottom. Perfect. I had one opening, so I lined up on that opening, and I said, now, he's gonna have to go towards her. He wasn't gonna come my way, because obviously her body language had told him there was danger that way. So he wasn't gonna come my way and circle back to her. He was gonna angle away and go and try to meet her, like almost like this, I would say. She was going towards the top of a hill, and he was gonna angle up that hill, going away from me as well. I knew that was gonna happen. So I set up ahead of him, between the two of them, and I set up ahead of him. I let him pass through the first opening, because I knew he was gonna get there too quick for me to actually set up and squeeze off around. And he got to the second opening, and just as he was almost to clear the opening, the rifle went off. Boom! He jumped like a horse jumping a fence, and ran about maybe 60 yards, and he was done. But I thought about that because I was thinking about deer language, how they speak to each other, how if you watch deer, not only do they make the vocal sounds, but they have sign language to let you know when another deer is in the area and when another deer is following them. And they also let you know when they're kind of spooked or they're confused by stomping their foot. They have different things that they do to signal to other deer that either danger lurks, or I'm not sure about this area, or I just saw something that had me spooked. So learning those sign languages, learning the way that they behave will help you out as far as being a successful hunter. And I'm gonna share some footage with you of my experimental herd and go through, just watch this video. You'll see some pointers and things I point out to you that they're doing in this video that lets you know that this is something that you really probably haven't paid attention to, but you need to pay attention to when you're in the woods and you're watching deer. I was down to a neighbor's house. It was during bow season, and a deer came out on the other side of his house eating at a plum tree. And he said, well, it was apricots, I think, something like that. But anyway, he said, I'm gonna sneak up on that deer. And I looked at the deer and I said, that deer's not by himself. He said, oh, you kidding, you're crazy. I know, I'm gonna show you how to kill a deer. I said, well, go and show me how you're gonna kill that deer. He was gonna sneak around to the back of the house, and then of course, if he turned the corner, he'd be right there on the deer, right? Nice, easy shot. He goes around there, and I see the deer just kind of walk off and disappear. And then he comes back and goes, man, it was 4 of them back there. I said, yeah, I could tell, because he kept his ear turned back, but he never really looked in that direction because they were communicating by sound, by soft grunts to let each other know where they are. See, those are things you have to pay attention to. And over the years, I've learned that. And I've studied deer. I've purchased over 300 videos of deer. I watched, I don't know how many documentaries of deer. So this is some information I've gathered over the years. And now we're going to get into just letting you look at this, the shedding of the summer coat. They have an orange coat during the summer, and they look like they might have some kind of the mange or something, because you see these dark patches start showing up in the orange coat, but that's actually the darker winter coat coming through. They're shedding that summer coat and they're getting that winter coat. And the other thing is that does, believe it or not, the does, when they have fawns, when that fawn reaches about 18 months old, if it's a buck, a male, they're going to chase it off. And that's nature's way of preventing inbreeding. And then the female does will hang with their mothers for life. And so the oldest doe is the one that leads the herd. So these are things you have to pay attention to when you see the deer approaching the fields and things like that. Does that come out there, they're going to have a leader that everyone else is going to follow that leader. And if something happens to that leader, it immediately goes to the next doe in line. They're kind of organized like that. It's wild, and it's very interesting the way nature has things set up like that. So we're going to go into this video, let you look at this, and you'll see you can see what I'm talking about with the way they communicate and how they act in each other's presence.
On my timeline.
An attempt to do something different. I've never done this before. I've set up to do it, and it just didn't work out because of the deer just didn't come out and participate or cooperate. What I'm going to do, I'm going to set this camera up right here, right? And I'm going to set it up where it's only about 5 yards to the first pile and maybe 10 yards to the second pile. Not even 10, 5 to 8 yards. 5 yards first pile, 8 yards second pile. And I want to see if I can get some real close video of these deer as they come out to eat. Just want to see if I can do this. Haven't been able to get them to cooperate with me in the past. So, and I've got a clicker. That's the important part. I have to get that clicker. Go around to the phone again. So I'm gonna put a nice healthy pile right here. And a nice little pile right here. I may even beat this pile up a little bit more. Okay. This is my experimental herd, like I said, so I'm gonna be experimenting a lot with them to see what their reactions are to different things. Set that corn back there. I'll leave the corn out for the smell. So now I want to go and find my clicker, and let's see. That's the first pile. Make sure I got the first pile in there. Okay, so I want to let it down a little. Yeah, let it down a little. That's one thing about deer. they're not that tall. They're only like pocket high at the back. Even the biggest, the tallest ones are only like pocket high. So, you know, we get down real close and low. They usually come out that way. I would love to get a little bit of footage of them as they come down the hill. So now, what I have to do is I have to go ahead and find my clicker. And once I find the clicker, make sure it's working. That way I can be in the house and I can click and hit record when they show up. All right, stay tuned. I hope to bring some real historic footage today. Okay, I couldn't find the original clicker, so I just programmed a new one to it, and hopefully it's gonna work. This new clicker will work when the time comes, and we'll get it for the moment of truth. Something up close and personal. Earlier, I have some crows and squirrels to come out, but no deer yet. Haven't even seen any sign of them on the hill yet, but I'm gonna keep waiting. Hopefully they'll show up again this evening.
Saw your picture on my timeline. 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 You were backlit by the sunshine. on my timeline. Saw your picture on my timeline. Saw your picture on my timeline. You were backlit by the sunshine. timeline. Saw your picture on my timeline. Saw your picture on my timeline.